Welcome back to Mile High Hoops. Today I'm going to be talking about sophomore NBA players and kind of like the slumps and some of the jumps they've made. This is definitely an interesting class for this type of discussion because a lot of players have basically been the same exact player as last year, other than some that I kind of left out because either they haven't really played because they're injured a bunch or they're just the exact same and I didn't really feel like they were too interesting to talk about. Um, but this video all kind of started because I've seen a lot of talk as far as like Raptors Twitter and that sort of thing goes um, about Scottie Barnes not really making any sort of jump or being in a slump, as a lot of them put it. Which I'm going to talk about whether or not I believe that really too much. But I'm going to pretend also like I didn't just record this whole video with no audio a minute ago. But anyways, like and subscribe if you could. That would be incredible, and I appreciate that a whole lot. And we'll get right into it. So, my first guy here is Jonathan Kuminga. I've got him in the progressed category, which might be because I'm a homer. I'm not too sure on that one. I'll leave it up to you. But his stats have been all kind of like the same, if not a little bit worse, which maybe is slump category. But the things that he has gotten better at are his shot selection specifically. During the Bucks game that the Warriors just played in, there's a moment where Kuminga had the ball on like the top left wing ish of the three and was thinking about shooting it, but then realized that he had Brooke Lopez pulled out to like about the free throw line, and he thought like, oh, you know what? I am one of the most athletic people on the court and one of the fastest players on the court. Let's just blow by him and score a layup. He did just that. It was great to see instead of him just relying on shooting a three, which he's not that great at. And that was good progression for me to see out of him. The other thing is hugely around his defense. So he's kind of starting to realize that he's kind of got a little bit of like a Kawhi gene in him where he can just pick you up full court and just really pester, annoy, and probe at like these offensive players. And it's been working out really well for him. I think he's been clamping guys up really well. The issues that I've seen mostly are centered around him being like off ball, falling asleep, or like I've even heard some people mention, and I do completely agree with it, where he is gapping the ball handler a little bit and he's not really like respecting them too much. And so they just kind of attack his hip. And then by then he's not quick enough like laterally yet to like open up that well to track down the defender to beat him to a spot or the offender. And he's not like Giannis or anything where he can just let him go by and then block him off the backboard. But I think those are some good progressions so far, and they aren't something that you'll see in a stat sheet. Next guy here is Franz Wagner. Franz has definitely picked up a bigger load on the offense, which I think is just insanely good for them. He already had a great rookie season, and so having this guy take a bigger load, I think, is very valuable to them. As far as like numbers go, I mean, nothing jumps off the page other than he's averaging 5 more points this season than last year. And for him, I think it's just a matter of him becoming like a great distributor for his team, because they've got like scoring with like Paolo, and Bul's actually been doing really well for them as well. The issue is that they don't really have a point guard. They've got all these different young point guards, and none of them are really distributors. They're kind of all like more like scorers, slashers. No one's really found that real niche yet. So I think that if he could step into that role a little bit more, that would be even better for them. The next guy here is Corey Kispert, and Corey played a lot last season as well, but pretty much across the board, everything's gotten a little bit better. He's gotten a few more minutes, and in those few more minutes, he's just shooting a 3-point ball like way better. Shooting about 4 a game and making about half of those. He's at 43%, which is great. I think that the Wizards have just been like searching for a wing that can shoot the ball for a couple years now. And if he can be a good defender and then also shoot like that, that's great for them, because they've got like Rui, who's a good defender but can't really shoot threes, and then Denny Avdia, who hasn't really like taken a big leap or anything yet either. and I think Corey could kind of step in and fill that role. He doesn't really need to do a whole lot more than score like this 10 points a game on shooting threes. So I think if he can just defend a little better, then they'll be pretty good. Ceiling wise, he's not going to go crazy off of that. The next guy is Alperen Sengun, and I think mostly his jump is related to Christian Wood not being on the team anymore. So he's definitely getting more minutes, more touches. But in that time, he is being more efficient and he's scoring the ball just more. He's at 14 points this season instead of 9.6 from last year. He's not really shooting the three anymore. And then his free throw percentage has gone up a little bit. And he's also rebounding a little bit better. Mostly what I've seen out of him is that he is doing those dribble handoff plays quite a bit. And when he denies handing it off, he is actually attacking the hoop really well off of that and scoring. He also had the poster of the year, which got called back, which was BS, but that's neither here nor there. I think for him, I mean, everyone wanted to compare him to Jokic. I don't think that's where he's going to be. I think he's going to be more of like a Vucevic or a Valanciunas, like a stretch big that can rebound, shoot, attack the rim, and kind of block the shots at the rim a few times. I think that's where he's going to end up. Next guy, I think this is probably the biggest jump so far, and actually I would say he was probably my most improved out of this group. Maybe I need to go look at the rest of the guys in the league, but as far as this group, most improved, definitely Trey Murphy. He has doubled his minutes. He's at 29 a game now, and he's got 12 points a game, flirting with a 50-40-90 at 46 from the field, and 39 from the three-point line, and 92 from the free throw line. Everything else that he does on the court is just a bonus because he is just an insane shooter at this point. He's also 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", one of those. And so it's pretty apparent, when guys go to close out on him, that they're just not going to block his shot. He gets it up over anybody. And having this guy around this already pretty big team that's really good at attacking the rim is just great, because I mean, having another spacer that's this tall that can shoot and kind of defend, he needs to definitely work on that. But that can just stretch the floor this hard around Zion and those guys is just great. I mean, if he can continue to progress on that, then he'll be an insanely good addition to this team, who's probably going to win a championship in the next few years. All right, my next guy is Bones Highland. And Bones, at the beginning of the season, I had as my most improved, who I thought was going to be kind of the guy to take that. And he's definitely doing better. He's shooting a three at 8 percentage point better at 44. And then he's scoring 14.6 points a game, which is up 4 from last season. Everything else is about the same. I think that he's doing a good job as being the scorer off the bench for the Nuggets. The issue is that the Nuggets have very similar issue to the Warriors, where when their superstar Jokic or Steph Curry is off the court, they're just losing really bad. And Bones is at a negative 3.9 for when he's on the court right now. And that's kind of alarming. I mean, I wouldn't put that all on him, because of course he's going to be around a bunch of other bench players for the vast majority of the time that he's on the court. But you would hope that this guy could kind of keep the team afloat a little bit better while he's on the court. I think that's a lot to ask out of a second-year guy, and he's doing fairly decently. At least he's not negative 10. But at negative 4, that's not great, especially when the Nuggets want to win a chip in the next year or two. Last guy here in the progression category is, I'm probably going to screw this up. Sorry, that Raptors fan the other day or a couple weeks ago that I screwed up some names. But this guy I'm also going to screw up. It's Santi Aldama, I think is how you say it. But he's doubled his minutes from last season, and he is just stretching the floor really well for the Grizzlies. Rebounds well, blocks some shots, steals the ball pretty well, gets in passing lanes. I think that this guy is just another great addition to this Grizzlies team that can use all the spacing they can get with their guard being so rim dominant, and then also their center not being a spacer either, which is another topic for discussion, why they extended Steven Adams when JJJ needs to be their starting center. Regardless, he's been actually really great for them, shooting 36.6% from the 3-point line. I think the biggest thing is that like more recently, he's also been just putting up like 14 to 18 points a game. And a lot of those he's making like 4 to 5 threes. So another great addition. You really can't complain on that. I think this Grizzlies team is just loaded and they're going to continue to get better and better. Okay, to the slumps. Scottie Barnes is the first guy here, and I don't know if it's entirely fair to have him here. He definitely hasn't progressed, but he hasn't really slumped. The one thing I will say is that I haven't caught enough games to say if he has become a better defender or anything along those lines. But I mean, as far as shooting, scoring, passing, turning it over, it's all the same. His field goal percentage is down a little bit. Other than that, everything else is pretty level. His assists are up, but his turnovers are up. So his assist turnover ratio is damn near the exact same as what it was. And so I think with like Scottie not really improving too much, which he might be one of those guys after the trade deadline just starts to pop off. Who knows? But I think the Raptors really need to have a discussion internally of, do we want to move towards these younger guys who are all pretty good and have high ceilings, or do we want to cash one of the many of them in to maybe help Fred VanVleet and Pascal maybe push for playoff like contention? It's a tough conversation. I myself would say I would move Fred VanVleet and some of these other guys to build around OG, Scottie, you name it. That might be a hot take, regardless. And then the only other guy I've got in the slump category here is Davion Mitchell. I'm a big Davion Mitchell fan and believer, but his minutes are down about 8 from last season. Everything else is down pretty much as far as like being on the court numbers, rebounds, assists, whatever, which that comes with not being on the court. Field goal percentage, 3-point percentage is about the same. But I think that a lot of this comes from the fact that De'Aaron Fox has gotten so much better, as well as them trading for Red Velvet. And so I think their guard rotation is just a little bit different here. And I think also that having Davion come off the bench and not really being able to shoot is definitely like an issue for them. But that's definitely something that he can work on. He's such a good pesky defender that he needs to just like be working on that 3-pointer and getting reps, as far as like if the Kings are up in games, they need to play him. But it's tough. It's definitely tough to like put this guy out there. I think as far as where he needs to go, and he needs to just be Jose Alvarado. Like that's what he needs to try to become. He's already probably as good of a defender as Jose is, other than Jose is just like a great defender and then also annoying as hell. So with just how active his hands are and stuff, I know Davion is pretty active, but he's definitely not as annoying and pesky of a defender, which is very arbitrary. I get it, but I think you all know what I'm talking about when you watch the games. But be a good shooter, continue to play defense. I think that's where he'll be successful. But anyways, that's all I've got for slumps. Of course, like I said earlier, most of these guys this season have been exactly the same or just slightly up or down. A lot of the guys in the lottery were like basically the exact same player as last season. So nothing too interesting to talk about. I think these guys will be better as more seasons go on. But anyways, if you made it this long, thanks again. You're the best. And I'll see you in the next one. See ya.